So we want some action buttons on that. Well, let's define some action buttons. Add coordinator. I'm going to have my accept, cancel, action buttons. So what do I do with accept, cancel? Well, I can accept. So when I accept, that means that I want to add this user as a coordinator for this office. How do I do that? Let's say that, well, first of all, I need to be able to run something asynchronously. I have this little utility function here, hidden behind useProcess, that gives me back a function that I can pass an asynchronous function to in order to run something. What do I mean by that? So const add coordinator is equal to, so this is going to be just like these, an event that happens whenever I click a button, so it's going to be a function itself, so I use an arrow function there. So I call that arrow function and I say run an asynchronous function, and here's the async function. So button clicks can't be asynchronous. They happen and then they return and you're back to the user interface. But adding a fact or any other kind of operation that you might perform inside of a connected application, that's going to make a call back to the server. So it's got to be asynchronous. It's got to wait for the server to respond, show errors, show progress while it's still waiting. So all of that fun stuff. And that's what run does. Run will take this asynchronous function, it'll show a progress indicator while it's running, and then if there are any errors, it'll show you a little toast notification that there was an error. So that was such a useful set of tools, I just put it behind useProcess. So what we are going to do is await j.fact. We want to bring in j, that comes from source client, and then the prototype of the fact that we want is a new coordinator. So let's bring that in, and coordinator takes an office and a user, that's the selected user, and the created date, new date, created just now. So I await that j.fact, and that creates the coordinator within this office. Okay, and so I should have an add coordinator button. Oh, accept cancel. That's not finished yet. So we've got a button, and now when I accept, that's when I call add coordinator. So that will run this asynchronous process of adding a coordinator. And then when it's finished, I want it to close the dialog. So set open to false. Close that dialog. I could actually just call close because that's a function. That's actually more intention revealing. Close the dialog. Okay? Now, can accept. I only want to be able to accept when there is a selected user. And furthermore, when that selected user is not already a coordinator. So I will say const can add coordinator, and that is going to be true when selected user is truthy, and coordinators that defined. So I've got a public key here is equal to the selected user public key when that returns undefined. It's break that out so I can see that a little bit better. Okay, so I have selected a user, and the coordinators array does not contain something that has the same public key as the selected user. So I can't use just equals for the selected user and the thing inside of coordinators. They might not actually be exactly the same JavaScript object. But if two JavaScript objects contain the same fields, then as far as Janaga is concerned, they are the same fact. And so that's what I'm doing here. If they contain the same public key, and the public key is the only thing that uniquely defines a user, that's the only field other than its type, then I can add that coordinator. So I do one little thing here. If I can add a coordinator, then continue forward, because I'm not 100% relying upon the fact that nobody's ever going to call this function if that is false. Here, I'm telling it that should be the case, but I'm not relying upon that. So I can accept, and then I can close. Here's my close, and then my accept text is equal to add coordinator. Or actually, in keeping with the other things, it's just add cancel. And the title is add coordinator. Okay, so they know exactly what they're doing. So now I should be able to select a user, add coordinator. And when I do that, it should create a coordinator fact. Let's see what happens. All right, so refresh. Here's my offices. So for the Calgary office, I'm going to add, let's say, Michael. Then hit add, and boom, there's a thing inside of that array. I've just added a coordinator to that office.